bells. The midnight hour is upon us. It's time once again for two internet strangers to discuss the good and evil of the horror genre. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the terror within the Hallow-Holics Anonymous podcast.
I brought you all here today to tell you that one of you is gonna inherit a fortune. Or you're dead. I forget which. I also plan to lecture you at length upon the merits of being a Southern belle.
Already got it covered, Cousin Annabella.
He's been dead for weeks. Don't worry, though. We're going to record the podcast anyway.
Wait, what?
Hi, I'm Maddy.
And I'm Corey. And this is Hallow-Holics Anonymous, a show dedicated to all things horror and occasionally Halloween.
Hey, stay tuned until the end so you can find out what we're going to be doing next week or on our next episode. So this week, we are digging up dirt. That is right. We're talking about one movie in which someone buries a fortune and another movie in which someone unburies an unlikely friend.
Well, he technically buries a friend. He digs up an unlikely friend.
There we go.
And that's pretty much all that our movies have in common. They involve digging.
And they were released in the same year, 1972, and they're below budget, so...
So we picked these movies because we needed to do movies from 1972, and these both involved digging.
Because we're trying to fill out our little movie year list on Podpedia. Because we're completionists.
So there's your topic discussion, suckers.
Yeah, and by the way, get prepared for a lot of 1930s and 40s movies pretty soon.
Oh, no.
Don't forget the 1920s.
Well, the 20s I can cheat at because there's some of my favorite movies in the 20s. Like we can do Dracula, Frankenstein's in there.
So we are digging up dirt today.
Yes. And people and treasure.
Initially, the game I had kind of written down tentatively for this episode was going to be like another survival game, like that one in which you killed the old man at the gas station. But then when I had told you I wanted you to make a list, we decided that would be the game, right?
Yes. Our game today is less of a game and more of us just making a list off the top of our heads of why children shouldn't play with dead things.
Now I know what you're thinking. Who needs a list, right? Or what does this have to do with the episode? Well, if we didn't say it before, we're talking about the movie Why Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, relevance.
Do you want to start?
Yes.
All right.
My number one reason why children shouldn't play with dead things, and we're going to do 10, so that's 5 each.
Okay.
Number one is kids like to put things in their mouth.
Oh, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. And a really gross one.
Yeah, I mean, it would get, first of all, the dead thing would end up getting all slobbery and slimy. Second, very unsanitary.
Yeah, disease. Lots of disease.
Like, seriously, you try to tell a kid not to chew on something. That kid's gonna damn well chew on it.
Mm-hmm. So my first reason why children shouldn't play with dead things is that it's illegal.
What? Is it illegal to play with dead things?
Grave robbing, desecration of a corpse.
Well, yeah, but if the corpse hasn't been buried yet, and you're just doing tic-tac-toe, is that desecration?
Like on the body?
Well, no, like with the body. You're like, X, and you grab the hand of the
Picturing
corpse.
little kids with switchblades, like playing tic-tac-toe on this dead guy's chest. But that's not where we're going with this. You're saying just like using his hand or her hand. I don't want to misgender the corpse.
Yeah, is that illegal?
I think it's a sign maybe that eventually those children are going to do something even worse and more illegal down the road. So I think it's important to nip that in the bud, so.
Okay, fair enough.
If it's not illegal, it should be.
My second reason is that it's a very antisocial behavior.
That goes along with the last one, that's true. And it leads to other antisocial behaviors, I think.
Yeah, don't let your kids play with dead things. They won't be able to make any living friends.
Children shouldn't play with dead things because it's a gateway to other bad things.
Oh, you're saying it's a gateway?
Yes.
Like, are we talking about a hellscape gateway or a gateway drug?
Like a gateway drug. Like, today they're playing with corpses, tomorrow they're making corpses out of their neighbors.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. You know, another reason children shouldn't play with dead things, I think that's my third one, right?
No, that was your second one. I think it's my turn for my second one.
Oh, I thought the one you just said was your second one.
Oh, it can be. No, that's fine.
Third reason why children shouldn't play with dead things, because sometimes they come back again. That was a little Stephen King reference.
I know, and didn't they come back again?
Yes, they did.
I forget the title of that one, though.
Actually, it was sometimes they come back, and then sometimes they come back again.
But there wasn't a third one?
No. Thank God.
Yeah, they do, and we'll learn a little bit more about the dangers of that in my movie, but I think most of you, if you're listening to us, understand the dangers of what happens when they sometimes come back. Children shouldn't play with dead things because it's boring.
Well, how so?
Like, you've just got this lump of corpse sitting there, and kids are like, oh, let's do stuff. And they'll lift up his arm, and it'll just flop back down onto its leg. There's just not a whole lot. Let me be a little more specific here. There's not a whole lot children can do to make playing with dead people fun.
That's true. And we are definitely emphasizing dead people in this list.
Yes. It's important that we don't get into what adults would do because A, it's not applicable, and B, it's just opening a door I don't feel like walking through right now.
Yeah, and we've already opened so many doors.
Right.
All right. My number 4 reason why children shouldn't play with dead things is because...
5 was a big number, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, this is number 4, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, 5 is a lot.
Yeah, I know it is.
We're going to make it, though. We're going to do it.
You know what? Because it'll make a mess. And that's just, you know, you don't want to clean up all that when the children's done playing with their dead thing.
No, that's true, especially depending on how long they play with it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You know, it's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
There's going to be goop everywhere, unidentified slime. You don't want to deal with that.
No. So this kind of relates to my next one. Children shouldn't play with dead things because you never really know what you're going to find inside.
It's like the anti-piñata.
Exactly. I was thinking about a way to relate it to piñatas. That's the best way you could do it. Like it's either you find diseased corpse goop, bugs, or some sort of like magical nightmare waiting to be unleashed, like a legion of demons that have been living in his soul, or like ancient scarab flesh-eating beetles that are going to take over your town. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just never know what's in there.
Yeah. My 5th reason why children shouldn't play with dead things, and I am about to say it, my 5th reason that children shouldn't play with dead things is, obviously, I mean, the most important one of all. There are issues with consent there, my friend.
That's very true.
A dead kid or a dead man can't tell you he doesn't want to play checkers.
That's true. And if you do, and checkers is a really crappy game, so you can pretty much assume that dead people don't want to play it.
Yeah, because they're going to lose.
Yeah, they're definitely going to lose.
Yeah, and that's just not fair.
So my final reason of why children shouldn't play with dead things are because maybe I want to. Why do it be? I'm not talking any creepy stuff. Like, I'm not going the necromantic or Lucker the necrophagist route on this. I'm like, it would be cool to have like a giant G.I. Joe for a while. Rigor mortis sets in, so you've got kung fu grip, you've got posability.
But if it's like in mint condition, you don't want children like scratching that thing up.
No. Yeah, I want to make sure that thing stays as playable. You know. Pliable works, playable, as long as possible.
Yeah, and I totally get that. You know, kids like to break things too.
Right.
And right after Grandpa Joe kicks the bucket and you want to play with Grandpa Joe one last time, you find out that little Natalie has just broken his left finger off. What are you going to do with Grandpa Joe now?
Yeah.
Can't get a new one.
No. Plus, I mean, there's really no other way to test homemade explosives other than to have a corpse to do it with. And you don't want that to go to waste just because your kid wants to play around with a dead person.
Exactly. I'm really glad we don't live in the same state now. I've learned a lot about you tonight.
Yeah, but like people in Texas love to blow stuff up. That's not that weird.
Yeah, but they don't really like to play with dead things.
I just don't think they've been given the opportunity. It's one of those don't knock until you try it situations.
I feel like it's not. I feel like it's really not.
I just don't think you're keeping an open mind.
Okay, so it is, as of recording this, May 19th. Isn't it?
On this day in horror history.
Okay, so it was actually a pretty dry day. In fact, such a dry day in horror history that I'm going to have to give you a little bit of information related to May 19th. That's more sci-fi than horror. A lot of Star Wars things were released. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer on Nintendo 64. The Phantom Menace 3 was published. Episode 1 Anakin Skywalker was published. Star Wars 6 Prelude to Rebellion was published. Vader's Quest 4 was published. And that was all in the same year. May 19th is a big Star Wars day.
I've got one. May 19th, 1951, Joey Ramone's birthday.
How is that even remotely horror?
I don't want to be buried in the pet cemetery. I don't want to live my life again.
You have a mixer. You could have easily added some echo to that, sir. I am disappointed and appalled, frankly.
Sorry. I don't want to be buried in the pet cemetery. I don't want to live my life again.
Thank you. That was a beautiful rendition.
And that was also on this day in horror history.
It's gonna be a pretty slim episode, but I think it's time to get on to the first movie. What do you think, sir?
I think you're right. Yeah, it is unfortunate. Like, there isn't a whole lot to say. There's even a whole lot of trivia on my movie.
Yeah, mine is a little bit tougher to trivialize.
It was oddly good, though.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I mean?
We'll
get to
really
that.
got into it.
Yeah.
Man, that is like such a porno opening. Vinegar.
Yeah, it is. I love this song so much.
Oh my gosh, it's so kitschy. Same guy who composed the music for Dukes of Hazzard, I think.
Oh,
Where
nice.
have you been hiding this?
All right, so you found Papa's horse money, so what about it?
Why, it's all yours. All you children have to do is to find it.
This is why people listen to our show, for us to just sing badly. A lot of people are being killed, by the way, guys. You can't tell.
Oh, here we go again. Take it home, everybody.
We cannot calm ourselves. Oh, I love this line.
So sure.
That was abrupt.
Yeah, but the DVD had a limited edition slipcover.
Oh.
Let me, Cousin Annabelle, would you like to read this for us? Oh, sure I would. Imagine, if you will, the decaying fortunes of an esteemed Southern family, which seems to coincide quite naturally with their mental acuity. Delilah, a lovely woman with a very sharp personality and a creepy obsession with her dead daddy, has hidden a good deal of the family's money now somewhere on her estate. Someone is anxious to get it, and everyone else is consumed by their own drama. Thank you, Cousin Annabelle. That was very lovely.
Also, look at all the delicious hams hanging there.
Which one should I pick?
Oh, that's the greatest line in that movie.
Was this movie dubbed? Sometimes the audio seemed kind of weird. Don't you think?
I think it was a low budget movie filmed on location. I think there's a very good chance they had to go back and post and overdub some stuff. So I think probably.
Yeah. So that intro song we were talking about, that infectious one that we were singing. The composer actually didn't do Dukes of Hazzard. Bill Justice would later work on music for Smokey and the Bandit and Hooper, which is also a really fun, what's his name? Help me out here.
Burt Reynolds?
Yeah, a really great Burt Reynolds movie that's kind of overlooked about a stuntman who's kind of getting too old for the job and wants to do, like, one last really good stunt. It's a good movie.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, it's a good watch. And the intro cards for this movie were really fun, too. All the, like, illustrations of, like, basically the people getting killed.
Yeah. And just the opening title was pretty phenomenal, too. With the Dear Dead Delilah in red and just the like eyes and lips without a face there. Yes. I thought that was really cool.
And a bizarre poster, which is that on a man's torso.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, the poster is actually the lips and the eyes over a man's torso, and instead of nipples, he has eyeballs there.
Yeah.
It's a weird poster. I can
relate to that.
Yeah, that's actually why I picked this movie, because it was such a weird poster. I was like, hold on there. What's this about? Right from the beginning of the movie, I was like, okay, this movie is actually really awesome so far, and it's either going to be really fun and campy or a massive letdown. And I was just prepared all the way to halfway through the movie to get just let down by this film. But, pleasant surprise, I actually enjoyed the whole thing.
Yeah, I did too. I really didn't expect to. I expected him to pull a lot of like giallo sort of stuff and have it not work.
Yeah.
But the characters were, I don't want to call them likable, but interesting.
Engaging, I guess.
Yeah, engaging. I will say that like I watched it once a week ago because we're really late recording this because life is hard. And I completely forgot the vast majority of the movie. I remembered all the basic beats. Like I remember Luddy getting out of the hospital. I remember the dinner scene, but I didn't remember, and I remembered the end, but I didn't remember how they got there. Like I just completely erased that entire movie after I saw it.
When I was watching this, I couldn't tell if it was just really racist against Southerners or just a really loving nod. So I looked into information about the writer and director, John Ferris. Well, he was a Tennessee-based author, so I think this was kind of a love story to the old Southern, the old South, you know, that, what's the phrase to describe? The antebellum South.
Antebellum,
yeah. He did mostly novel writing. In fact, this was the only one of his works that he actually directed. He also wrote The Fury, and one of his stories was adapted for Masters of Horror. It's the We All Scream for Ice Cream. It's about an evil ghost clown whose ice cream melts children when they eat it.
I know I saw that one, but I can't remember it.
Yeah. But the movie opens on Blanche Dubois, who turns into Festerine Adams later. And that would be kind of our main character in a weird way, but also not our main character.
She's one of those characters that is supposed to be a stand-in for us as the audience, I think. I think she was supposed to be kind of... Actually, it's really interesting the way they did her. She was supposed to be the audience stand-in, but she was also a red herring protagonist as well. Yeah,
oh yeah. When it opened on her and I saw like her getting out of that mental hospital, I thought to myself, she's going to be a red herring. I mean, it was pretty obvious.
Yeah. Well, I actually thought she would, I didn't think this movie was going to be smart enough to do that. So I assumed she was going to be the one that was murdering people until that whole, like, finding the guy without the arm and being like, I was dreaming, I didn't do it. That's when I realized it wasn't her.
The whole movie has a very Tennessee Williams meets Whatever Happened to Baby Jade vibe for me.
I can see that.
Yeah. I think it was just funny. It was like 1313 Dead and Drive if it was a movie, kind of. It was ridiculous. In fact, I kind of want to describe every character here with a few notes I have about them, because I really did. Even though they're assholes, I liked them all for different reasons.
Can I tell a quick drug-fueled story about 13 Dead End Drive?
Well, sure. We always have to enjoy your drug-fueled stories on the podcast. That's why I started hosting this story.
Good. Well, no, I'll make it really quick. It's just you brought it up and I can't stop thinking about it. I feel so bad about doing this. So my friend Doug, I practically lived with his house in college. This was pushing 20 years ago now, maybe a little less. But he was out of town and it was me, my good friend Amanda, and I'm obviously only using first names to protect the innocent, but I also, if they listen, I want them to know that I'm talking about them. It was me, Amanda, and maybe Kevin might have been there. I don't remember if Kevin, it doesn't matter. It was me and Amanda and a few other people, and we all eaten a bunch of hallucinogenics that night. And again, this is the statute of limitations are gone. You guys can't get me in trouble for this, so it's okay to talk about. So we're tripping our faces off and playing 13 Dead End Drive and absolutely hating it, but hating it to this level like that you can only get to when you're tripping.
How can you hate that game? It's one of the best board games ever.
So we're playing it and we hate it. And at one point I had just had enough and I took this game and I tossed it out their living room window and there it sat until the next day when we were all sober and guilty about our lives. Doug comes in and he's like, why is my 13 Dead End Drive out? Why did you throw it out the window? And it was a sentimental piece for him and we didn't know it. So I still to this day feel a little bit bad that I did it. So Doug, on the off chance that you're listening, I am very sorry I threw your copy of 13 Dead End Drive out your living room window.
Oh man, why would you do that to such a good game?
Because I was wasted.
So you've got the first character. Lottie, Luddy, whatever you want to call her. She's the crazy nurse, played by Patricia Carmichael, who actually didn't do a lot of acting. And I do have to wonder about her. Like, she's in this mental hospital / prison for, 20, 30 years, right? 26 years?
So, yeah, I didn't really pay attention to the timeline, but it had to have been at least 20.
And she has had, massive, iron deficiency. Those rings around her eyes. Is no one, paying attention to that? She just looks like a female version of Fester Adams by the time she comes out of that hospital. After a great opening sequence in which she's lecturing her mother in a bloody nightgown before she goes out on her date, and it's slowly revealed that they got into a fight. She chopped her mother's arm off and killed her. And her mother's just her body is leaning against the stove while she's still arguing with her.
See, I took it as a kind of, my mom has been abusing me and I had enough sort of situation.
Oh, no, I think so too, but I think she had a break.
For sure.
After that happened. Well, yeah, her mom had been abusing her. That's why her face was so bruised up, you know?
Yeah.
Because her face was bruised up when she grabbed the axe to go at her mom, so. Her mom had beat the crap out of her, broken the photo she had of her boyfriend, and she just lost it. She's a very gentle character, really.
Yeah, I don't think that registered either. I think that I thought that entire scene she had already killed her mom. I didn't realize she did it during that scene.
No, she had killed her mom, and that's why her nightgown was bloody. But then she had a mental break, and you only figure out how it happened by, little moments going back to seeing the broken picture frame, looking at the arm on the ground, and then later on seeing her dream as she dreams of her mother.
Yeah.
To go through the other characters in this movie, we've got Delilah, the matriarch, played by Agnes Moorehead, who most of us will recognize as the equally bitchy Andorra in Bewitched, the mom. I didn't catch that. Yeah, when I was watching this, I was like, I know this lady, and I had to look her up, and I was like, yep, that's her, all right.
Yeah.
She also did the voice for the goose in Charlotte's Web. A lot of theatrical work, and she was Charlotte in Citizen Kane. She even did a lot of major work in radio theater. She worked with Orson Welles quite a bit. And this movie was her last film to have a theatrical release. And it was also the only movie in which she had a title role. And she was well close to the late stages of cancer when they were filming Dear Dead Delilah too.
Oh, so she was actually sick during the filming.
Yeah, she was.
That makes all of her lines about only having a couple of months left even more dark and impactful. That's awful. I mean, terrible, but awesome.
I'm sure she was probably actually very grateful that the director allowed her to just use a wheelchair. It must have been pretty exhausting because she had a lot of monologues in this film, so I can't imagine it didn't take several days of shooting for that.
Oh, for sure.
Next, we've got Roy, whatever you want to call him. That's the Colonel Sanders character, played by Will Geer, who was a social activist, the actor, blacklisted in the 1950s for refusing to testify for the House of Un-American Activities, and he played Grandpa in The Waltons. Next, we've got Morgan, basically Rhett Butler, played by Michael Ansara. Did mostly voice work and played a lot of Native American roles, even though he was very white. We've got Buffy, the squeaky bimbo. Nothing to say about her. She's Morgan's girlfriend. Alonzo, the drug-addicted doctor. That's played by Dennis Patrick, and he did mostly TV. And I could not, for the life of me, figure out where I recognized him from until I looked him up, and he was in Dark Shadows.
Yeah, he did look familiar. I really like his role. I think that everybody they were all passable in their roles, but I think he added like a pretty although I still don't know if it didn't really come across, even though he said he cared about his kids a few times, it didn't really come across that he actually did.
Well, he didn't have kids yet.
Oh. Well, then what was he kept talking about? It's for my kids. Oh. I thought he already had them, like he had like an estranged family.
Nope.
Okay.
That's why that scene at the end is really weird with him and Luddy talking about having 1 million babies.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I thought that was really weird, but I also thought that, I don't know what I thought. Movies are hard.
We've also got bitchy drunk sister Grace, played by Ann Meacham, who did a lot of stage work on and off Broadway. You've got Ellie, who's the youngest, and that's Elizabeth Ace, who was also on Dark Shadows. You've got Richard, who's her boy toy husband. Robert Gentry, he did a lot of soap operas, which, frankly, this whole movie is kind of like a soap opera. And then you've got Marshall, the butler, played by John Marriott, whose sole purpose was one dramatic line to prove he was just an extra stereotype to add to the pile. Mostly theater, this guy. Like, seriously, I think he said something like, yeah, Delilah, Miss Delilah sure does know what she doing. Sure does.
Yeah, that was such a weird line. He kept talking after the dude he was talking to stopped paying attention. I'm like, wait, what does he know? What's going to happen? And it turned out to be nothing.
Yeah. And I'm and at one point, like, he opened up the salt house or dry house or whatever, the smoke house, and for Luddy to look inside, and he was a little creeped out by her.
And that's when she said, "Look at all the delicious hams hanging there," which is the greatest line in all of film.
And he's like, "Yeah, that's a lot of ham, all right."
Which one do we pick? Whichever one you want.
So I can't. I really did think eventually, because you never saw Marshall again after that scene, I really did expect it to go back and see him hanging like one of the hams or something. But missed opportunity, I guess.
Yeah.
I wonder if this movie would have been better in black and white, though, to kind of fit the antebellum vibe they were going for.
I think if it would have been in black and white, I wouldn't have liked it as much. I think that would have like pushed it to like more of a like tacky melodrama sort of feel.
That's
I think that in color it walked the line, but I think the black and white would have definitely sent it over.
So the sister Grace has got to be the drunkest woman in movie history. She is drunk the whole time.
Like stumbling drunk the whole time.
She didn't even give a shit about finding the money. She just wanted to be like hammered.
Mm-hmm. I can relate, honestly.
I love that scene where she sees the wheelchair coming out of her father's tomb, and she just sits down in it and starts going, "Delilah!" for no good reason.
She drives it around too, right?
Yes, she does.
She has like donuts in it.
Yeah. And then the ghost of her father, sort of, in a weird way, with a metal silver mask, comes like riding on a horse out of the tomb and just lops her head off.
Yeah, the gore in this was surprising too for what it was.
Especially that one headshot at the end. Holy crap.
That really looked like they just took like everything they found inside a raccoon and like put it in a blender and then threw it at that guy's face to get that scene.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
I did kind of want to review this whole film in a comfortable southern drawl while I sipped on my mint and julep. There are a lot of dramatic and droning conversations and monologues in this, and I think that is what I don't like about this movie.
Yeah.
The first 20 minutes is monologuing from Delilah and Roy, and it's at some point, I want to say Luddy. Like, there's a lot of monologues.
Yeah. I don't even think we get to the plot of this movie until like 40 minutes in.
Because of all the monologues.
Yeah, like you just get through all this like sort of half-ass characterization until you finally get to that dinner scene
And of
where
course,
the movie actually starts.
And of course, you can't have any true Southern stereotypes without, like, at least one person, Delilah, giving a speech about the Civil War.
Although there were no seersucker suits that I saw. Nobody was wearing specific seersucker.
Oh, brief rundown of the very simple plot, guys. Lottie, in the beginning of the movie, is a young girl, kills her mom after a psychotic break, and gets arrested. 26 years later, she's released from a mental hospital / prison, and then when she's walking, these football guys knock her out, or football, soccer, whatever they're playing, and the girlfriend, who is Ellie in this, and, the wife, and her husband Richard, decide to take Lottie home with them, because she didn't have anywhere to go, right? And then Delilah's like, all right, you're going to be my nurse. And then Delilah tells the whole family that they're almost out of money except for Papa's horse money because their father broke the law and was basically embezzling a lot of money and did insurance fraud. And she tells them it's buried somewhere on the estate, and then murder starts to happen.
With axes, mainly.
Yes, with axes, which I can appreciate. I love
me
axe
too.
murder.
Me too.
It wouldn't be Southern without, a Lizzie Borden-style murder.
And they weren't totally out of money. She had enough money to will, like, if her plan was to will the plantation to the state, what they had left, because they already sold off a bunch of land. But she was going to will that to the state and then give them enough money to just have it kept up. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, it would have been, I guess, like a historical thing.
Yeah. I gotta say, when the Brother Morgan showed up, like, the phrase that popped into my head was, a wild Rhett Butler appears. He just came out of nowhere.
I'm proud of myself that I at least get that, because I actually know who Rhett Butler is. Normally, I don't get your jokes like that.
Who would you say is the craziest character in this movie, though?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's pretty funny that, like, we have to argue about this, considering the axe-murdering maniac son is not the craziest character in this movie. I don't know. Because you've got, like, I wouldn't call Rhett Butler crazy, desperate, maybe.
Out of them all, he's probably the most sane.
I
love how his girlfriend's like, do you want 1 or 2 olives in your martini? I've told you 1,000 times I don't like martinis.
I don't know. I think no, you know what? It was axe-murdering son's girlfriend that was the craziest.
Oh, well, Ellie is actually family. He's her husband.
Oh, okay.
Which is why it was cool that he was sleeping with her aunt.
Yeah, but I think she was the craziest.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's no doubt about it. She basically knew she was going to die, and she was cool with that.
And just laughing maniacally as she was cutting him up with the axe.
And he seemed pretty cool with it.
Well, I mean, I think that was supposed to be part of their plan, like part of their cover-up at the end. Like, he was supposed to be injured.
One of my favorite lines that kind of gets glossed over in this movie is in the beginning when Letty's, like, not feeling well and she's just been brought into the house, and Ellie's like, oh, well, you can see our family doctor, Alonzo. He's not allowed to practice medicine anymore.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
It's like, why would you add that? That's very comforting.
Yeah, but if you think about it, that's exactly the kind of passive-aggressive family stuff somebody would do. You know what I mean? Oh, he's a perfectly passable doctor. He's not allowed to practice medicine anymore, but he'll fix you up, right? Like, totally Southern passive-aggressive.
Yeah, but like you were saying earlier, I love that character who plays the doctor. Like, I like that he has a romance with Lottie.
Yeah, him and Lottie were the most fleshed out characters. I mean, obviously, they're the final people, but they were definitely the most fleshed out. And I think if I have any complaint with this movie is that they should have spent all that monologuing on characterization instead. And I think this movie would have been a lot better if we would have had more of a window into these people's desperation and insanity. I think we would have cared a little bit more about the movie in the second act. Yeah,
definitely. I hate when a movie when they have the opportunity to show, they decide to tell, because film is a visual medium. It's an audio visual, but mostly visual.
I had a professor who he's written for some, like, I think he wrote for, like, Saving Grace or something like that. Maybe not that. He wrote for some TV show that did okay back in the day. he was always talking about how much he hated monologues and how there's no reason to have a monologue if you can have a conversation. You know, if you break a monologue up into a conversation, not only is it more interesting, but it gives you a chance to learn about more than one character or thing that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
But even with the minimal character development for most of them, at least it was easy to remember them all because it was a pretty big cast, but you still kind of had them all straight in your head. They weren't those people where, like, you look back, you're like, who was that character? Oh, that was one of the 3 blonde girls. I don't know which blonde girl that was, but she died first. You know, there was none of that issue. You could distinctively remember each one. And that might be because most of them were older. I'm not sure.
Could be. The only problem I had is the first guy who got murdered. I got him confused with the doctor for a split second. Mm-hmm. Because you didn't, like, he was covered in blood and, like, had fallen sort of to the side so his face wasn't showing anymore. I'm like, oh man, they killed the doctor. And then the doctor shows up in like 2 seconds later. I'm like, oh, it's that guy. Mm-hmm. So, but that was the only confusion I got. And that's just probably because I don't pay attention enough.
I do like that there was a happy ending. Kind of. I mean, they're talking about going on the lam to New Zealand, which, I mean, it's dope. They probably have enough money to start a sheep farm now, at least. Yeah, and have 12 million babies.
Yeah. It was a real weird, like, they were talking about getting the money and having to pay a bunch of taxes. But if they've got the money in cash and they're going off on the run, why are they paying taxes on that money?
Because they're crazy.
Valid point.
Now, would you believe that this was optioned as a TV movie?
Oh, with all that gore at the time?
Right? No. So I can only think that maybe it was censored a bit at first. But it just seems like it would be perfectly in place for, like, a drive-in theater. Yeah,
and it would have fit in great, like, you know, like do a double feature of that and the original 2000 Maniacs.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Especially with that music. La 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 la.
Oh, it's going to be stuck in my head for days.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
So that was Dear Dead Delilah. Do you have anything else to say about it?
Just one more thing. Look at all the delicious hams hanging there.
I knew you were going to do that.
Oh, I've been fixated on that line since the first time I saw it.
Children had a party. It's party time. It was Orville's coming out party. Oh, they had so much fun. They laughed and laughed and laughed. That is, until Orville's friends dropped in. Children shouldn't play with dead things.
Children shouldn't play with... Why did he, like, go up in intonation there like he was asking a question?
Well...
You shouldn't play with dead things?
Dead things? Children should just pick one and go with it, John. It's like, you know what? No, you don't even get to say this last one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Children shouldn't play with dead things.
Yes, children shouldn't play with dead things. First things first. I thought this movie was a work of fiction until I noticed it was filmed in Florida. Now I realize that this is just a documentary about what people get up to in Florida.
Aww.
Yeah, because they're crazy there. Oh, I hate it when you don't laugh at me. I hate it.
It felt like a love story almost to Night of the Living Dead, right down to the music.
I mean, it was a love story between Alan and Orville, but we'll get to that. It did. You're right. It was very Night of the Living Dead-ish. So this movie has got it all. We've got pretentious actors, pretentious directors, and this is just in the movie. Like this is about a theater troupe. So there's a couple of pretentious actors in the troupe. There's pretentious directors. You've got the manly athletic actor. Man, you've got the new actress.
These guys make me so mad because I've known all of these people.
Mm-hmm, me too. You've got ancient esoteric tomes that are conveniently written in English. Mm-hmm. You've got potential necrophiliism. Actually, the potential is for more than that, actually, because Alan at one point offers to take Orville, the main corpse, in their ritual home with him and have him, like, he actually wants to have a meaningful relationship. You know, like that was such a weird conversation when they were alone in there.
My theory, do you want to know my theory?
I would love to.
My theory is actually that these zombies aren't evil. They're here to rescue humanity from this potential fucking serial killer, Alan. This is like to prevent him because he's right about to do it. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
At its heart, this is a story of the dead stopping a serial killer before his career begins and punishing his enablers.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Although I think that it's a shame that the caretaker was an innocent victim in this thing.
That poor guy. And how long was he tied up there?
I don't know. I have a number of issues with the timeline that we'll get to in a minute, too.
Yeah.
So this was apparently, we're still on my list here. This is apparently one of the first movies that showed gay characters in a positive light. And I mean, it was positive for the time. They were still very stereotypical, like limp wrist, like lispy, you know.
But they were also theater majors.
Yeah, they were. But they had actual important points to the plot, and they were strong characters as far as what they did. You know what I mean? I think I might touch on that in a minute, too. And the final thing on my list of what this movie has is zombies that know how to sail. Which I'll probably remember to come back on in a little bit. So this is a movie about Alan, a man who, if he existed today, would embody every edgy internet commenter and troll out there.
Yes. Oh, my God. His clothes.
Yeah, like every time somebody annoys me on Reddit, I picture Alan. Like,
and this is the director too.
Yeah, this is the director. This is also the guy who directed A Christmas Story.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm really hoping he was just playing a completely different person than who he really is in real life. Because if that's who he was, I'm sad.
Well, you know, he was married at the time to the actress who played the crazy girl.
Yeah, I knew that. Well, I think. Yeah, they were married at the time. Mm-hmm. I thought they had gotten, I think they got married during filming.
Well, maybe.
I don't know. I'd have to look at the trivia again. I just don't care to. So Alan's also got a very, very loyal acting troupe, even though Alan's a terrible person.
Yeah.
And he's constantly threatening to fire them, even though this is like some chintzy theater group in Florida. I can't imagine they're making a living wage.
And I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. No matter how good a show is, I would not only not want to work with someone like Alan, but there's no way in hell I'd stick around if he wanted to drag a dead body into a cabin and then stage a fake wedding and perform a satanic ritual in a graveyard.
Yeah. I would have pieced out the minute he wanted to have a work retreat on a random island.
And we say this, but we're also the kind of people who go along with everything that the people in charge in a theater group tell us to do. So
that's true. So yeah, this is a movie about theater people praying to Satan to raise the dead. As with most things involving theater people doing things that are not theater, it goes horribly wrong. So the movie opens on some, quote, ghouls kidnapping the caretaker of an island off the coast of Florida as our cast sails in. For, I guess it's a work retreat. I thought maybe it was like a late night party or like a late night picnic, but they have no booze and none of them want to be there. So it has to be a work
bonding
retreat.
Events that a director thinks they need before a show so that the cast is more intimately linked.
I knew this girl who method directed or whatever, Midsummer Night's Dream years and years ago. And she took her cast out into the woods and was like, just go be fairies. So she made all these poor actors run around like fae in the wilderness.
Oh man.
I get it, it's your art, but your art doesn't have to always be artsy. Just let your actors do their thing, man. So yeah, the point is they don't want to be there. As they're walking in, it's dark, they have lanterns, but oddly there are random street lights and some of this place still has electricity. They're being stalked. You see people just off into the tree line and you know what's going to happen until they go out there and they're starting their ritual. So they dig up Orville's grave.
Not Orville Redenbacher.
No, Orville, I forgot his last name. Doesn't matter. Yeah, not Orville Redenbacher. Orville, some dead guy. So they dig up his grave. Orville's corpse reaches up and grabs the guy, which leads to one of my favorite lines. We'll come back to that in a minute. And then another ghoul comes out from the forest and takes the dark-haired girl away and is chased by the athletic actor. And it turns out the whole thing was a prank. And these are the two gay characters I spoke about. Like I said, they're very stereotypical, but they're tough as hell. The guy who chased the brunette away got beat up a little bit by the athletic guy and came back. And the dude who came out of the grave had been buried in there for a question of, like, he let the director bury him in this grave, not knowing he maybe had an hour of oxygen. Jesus. It was like, all right, let's do this. Totally worth it. And this led to my favorite exchange of the whole movie, where the guy who dug him up, I forget his name, he's
like the only one who seems like a normal person. Jeffrey.
Yeah, something like that. He looks like a Jeff. Anyway, he just repeatedly keeps saying, I peed in my pants. I peed in my pants. So for a whole 5 minutes during this scene, everybody else is talking and either being irritated or giving Alan props, and he's just, I peed in my pants over and over again. It's amazing. This movie's super funny at times.
Yeah, there's some good dialogue.
Mm-hmm. So now that this prank happened, we're ready to get on to the real reason for the trip. Their satanic ritual to raise one corpse. And I think that corpse was supposed to be Orville. Although now that I think about it, maybe not. So this ritual involves Orville, who they had dug up and sat next to the poor caretaker who was kidnapped, and everybody seems to be totally okay with the fact that they kidnapped this caretaker.
And left him there. They were living there all night. Yeah.
So they bring Orville back, they prop him up, they have this little envelope of baby's blood, which Alan assures us that no babies died to get this blood. I don't know if he was just hanging out in a maternity ward, just scooping up the floor afterwards,
Alan's
or where
just this sociopath who enjoys making people miserable.
Yeah, with very narcissistic tendencies as well. So he does his thing. He does his ritual with his fancy book and his nice robe, and it doesn't work. So then we get the main actress, the pretentious actress, as I've been calling her. She jumps in, and this is where the humor of this movie really shines. Mm-hmm. It was written in 10 days, and it shows. The plot's a little bit nonsensical, but the characters, the lines the characters were given to work with, I don't know, maybe there was some improv going on here too, but every single joke that was said at the expense of Alan hits perfectly, and it's so funny. Everybody just sarcastically mocks Alan for being such a douchebag the entire time as he threatens to fire them and stuff. But anyway, she jumps into the grave and does this ridiculous, over dramatized, hilarious invocation sort of ritual, and then they don't think that works, so they scoop up.
And she slowly transforms into an angry Jewish woman while she does it.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. So then they take Orville into the caretaker's house and decide that Alan's going to marry him. So Alan marries Orville, and then we get a bunch of other scenes of Alan disrespecting Orville, their new corpse friend, and he's irritating the crazy girl a lot to the point where she storms away and starts screaming.
And
so Alan
was totally cool with opening up a grave and all that.
Yeah, she was super into it at first, and I kind of get the curiosity, but then being disrespectful afterwards. Mm-hmm. I think it's one thing to dig up a corpse; it's another thing just to mock the dead.
We'll come back to that later, Corey. I'm a little concerned about you now.
Look, different values, Maddie. Have an open mind.
About digging up dead people?
Sometimes you have to.
Oh, what situation?
When you need bones for your planters.
Why are you putting bones in your planters?
Because they look cool.
Put a plant in there, for God's sake.
Well, there's plants in there, too. I have a foot and a femur and an arm bone and a hand bone in 2 different plants.
And you don't think that's mildly disrespecting them too?
I think it's less disrespectful from when they were scientific skeletons. I think that probably their trip from being people to being display skeletons in a college was probably more disrespectful than me
using them to prop up your tomato plants.
I think one's a yucca plant. And the other one's some type of fern. They're happy, damn it. So yeah, and then so Alan's had enough. So he has Jeff, or the man we're calling Jeff, help him take Orville up into his room. And then they have this weird, like, he leaves, so it's just Alan and Orville. And they have this weird talk about how Alan wants to bring him home with him to, like, and they're talking about, like, starting a relationship and stuff. And this is what's crazy to me about this movie. This movie's PG. It's not super gory. It's not super graphic. But you've got these weird hints of necrophiliism and potential inappropriate things being done with in two bodies, but it doesn't push it past PG. Mm-hmm. You go in expecting a PG movie and you get like this disturbing stuff.
It's not something I would show to kids.
No, which is funny because as I was watching this on Tubi, it's streaming on Tubi TV, after it was done, it requested that I watched Rango next. So I was wondering if maybe if I was a kid and I was watching Rango, if it was like children shouldn't play with dead things would be recommended next. So some kid was like, oh, children playing. I'd like to watch this now, Mommy. And that kid's just broken now. So it turns out the ritual worked way too well than they had planned, and the entire island graveyard, because this is like a graveyard where they buried like paupers, and it was a potter's field where homeless people and poor people got buried. So everybody starts waking up and killing everyone. The jock gets it trying to save everybody by running to the boat. His brunette girlfriend gets it by like just getting yanked out when she's trying to see if he's okay. The other three get it when they're trying to make a run to the boat, and Alan runs in with the crazy girl, goes upstairs, feeds the crazy girls to the zombies to get away.
Alan.
Typical Alan.
Fucking Alan, man.
He goes up into the room, forgetting about Orville, and this is a really well done scene. He gets in there, he shuts the door, he latches it, and turns around, and Orville's just sitting on this bed.
And that is a chilling moment.
Yeah, it's so perfect.
And he's smiling, right?
I can't remember if he's smiling or not, but it's creepy. It's really well done. Like, there's some creepy stuff in this movie. I will I will always consider watching PG movies because of children shouldn't play with that thing.
And you know what's funny about him being awake too is that the zombies had woken like much earlier in the night, so Orville was pretty much conscious through most of Alan's weird behavior.
Well, they showed some signs of like tactics and basic problem solving, so I think it wouldn't surprise me if Orville was just waiting for his moment like that. So yeah, this is the final battle, and by final battle, I mean Alan has a hatchet. He throws the hatchet at Orville instead of trying to actually chop Orville up, and then the other zombies break in and eat him, and that's the end.
It's perfect.
It is. I like this movie a lot more than I remember liking it.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's a cult classic for a reason.
Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much everything I have on this. I already touched on the script stuff, the fact that it was written in 10 days and the plot nonsense and all that. There wasn't a whole lot of trivia to it, but I will say Alan Ormsby, the guy who played Alan, who also...
They all, like, all the character names were the actors' names.
Yeah. He also wrote this movie, but he's got some... he's written some good stuff, and he directed your movie Popcorn, like you told me. He also wrote it.
Well, he was the initial director. I think they replaced him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he directed A Christmas Story, although I can't see it now.
I think A Christmas Story was directed by the guy who did Black Christmas.
Yeah, but that's the same. Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of the wrong person.
Yeah, that's Bob Clark.
It's, Bob Clark, yeah. Bob Clark, the guy who directed Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, did Black Christmas, Porky's, A Christmas Story. I went on to do some pretty great stuff. I mean, did some crap too, but in fact, after The Christmas Story, pretty much only did crap. But that's...
Alan Ormsby wrote Popcorn and the Substitute movies.
Oh, yeah, he did do the Substitute movies as well. Yeah. Did he? Yeah.
And he also wrote for the 1982 Cat People. Go figure.
I have a vague memory of that movie disturbing me when I was a kid. There's a scene where, like, one of the characters, like, rips off a big chunk of his skin and eats it.
Yeah. You know, that was improv.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that messed me up when I was a kid.
The only thing I hate about that movie is the ending, but... And
but I'd have to watch it again.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I'm not an advocate of this by any stretch of the imagination because it's gross, but I think she should have ended up with her brother. That's all I'm saying.
In what?
In Cat People.
Oh, yeah. See, I still don't remember it. I have to watch it again. I'm sure we'll watch it for the show eventually.
They're these incestuous cat god people, basically, who, like, they always mate with their siblings to be with their own kind because they're such a small race. But she didn't want to be with her brother.
Oh, so you're arguing for incest.
I'm arguing for it in that situation. That particular situation.
You heard it here. Maddie's okay with incest, guys.
If you would still like to check out our blog now, you can find us at hallow-holic.blogspot.com or hallow-holic.wordpress.com. You
can find us in the Twitterverse by searching for Hallow-Holics or tweeting at Nowhere23.
You can also email us at hallowholics@outlook.com. We would appreciate any emails, guys.
The man with the giant rock suspended above my head wants me to tell you to check us out at podpedia.org by searching our porthole HHA. Boom.
He's doing a Looney Tunes thing this week, huh?
Yeah, he is.
Do you want me to paint exit on the door by you and hopefully...
No, he as soon as I say the Podpedia stuff, he just wanders out.
Oh, but the rock's still up there?
No, he takes it. He always takes the weapon with him.
Oh, that's nice to know.
He's actually a very, not conspicuous. What's a word when you're being nice about something?
Nice?
That works. He's actually a nice, threatening murderer guy.
Well, that's good.
Next week.
Yeah, next week, we're doing some biker exploitation.
Yes, we are going to do Streets of Fire, which is one of my all-time favorite movies.
And my selection is a movie I have not seen yet, so this will be fun. Dear God, no.
Dear God, no. I'm very excited.
It is one sweltering evening, and I've noticed that you appear to be quite pallid.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I was just going to start taking my clothes off. So, there we go.
What did I say about ladylike behavior earlier this evening?
Yeah, but I thought that didn't count when it was too hot, and I'm wearing this terrible suit.
Well, this will not do at all. It will not do.
That was a really weird conversation you two just had.
It was.
Is this what it's always like when you visit your Aunt Annabelle?
Yeah. It's what happens anytime I visit anybody in the South in the summer. I don't realize that fans and air conditioning are a thing, and I just think I have to get naked.
Good night, guys. Oh, wait. Hold on there, guys. One last thing to announce. Unfortunately, Dear God No was unwatchable. So instead, next week we will be recording an episode on biker exploitation using Psychomania and still Streets of Fire. Thank you very much for listening, and you guys have a great night.